Where to begin? And that really was the definition of not going for it. Somehow, some way, these tactics got us to the final, and I'm saying right now it was to do with the opposition and the fact that we were at home for almost the entire thing. One game in Rome. The tactics throughout the tournament were bad, and yet we got to the final. And in the first 20 minutes of that final, I was ecstatic. I thought, Southgate here might have clocked onto something. Italy did not know what to do with our wing backs. They did not know how to handle Kane dropping deep and creating. It was looking good. We were finding space. Shaw was always the outball. And then Italy figured it out. Mancini showed why he's regarded as one of the best. He tinkered with their shape and their formation. They got a stranglehold on the game. They started knocking it about, making sure that any pressure we put on them was just extinguished straight away. And we were pushed right back. We were doing nothing, absolutely nothing. We got to half time. I was relieved it was only 1-0. And I thought, half time, right, well, we've got to do something about this. We need someone who can carry the ball up the field. We need them on the pitch. We need them straight away. That didn't happen. Italy made more changes. And anyone watching the game could see they were going to equalise. Anyone. Except the man in charge. And he didn't make any changes. Italy got their equaliser. And then he thought, now I'll make a change. And even then, it wasn't Grealish. What has he got against this man? Every time he's been on the pitch, stuff begins to click. But no. Doesn't put him on. In fact, it brought on Saka and Henderson. We kept the same formation with only 3 attacking players on the pitch. Did we want to win this game in 90 minutes or not? Because we could have with the squad we've got. They have a 34-year-old and a 36-year-old centre-back who've had to play extra time twice in this tournament. And we didn't bring on our pacey attacking players. Is it only me? It just does not make sense. It just completely baffles me. Grealish should have played so many more minutes this tournament. So should have Sancho, and so should have Rashford. And it just completely confuses me. I mean, they got the equaliser. They were in complete control. We didn't look like we were going to score again. Sterling had a few runs down blind alleys. It's just, he didn't make decisions, against Ukraine. He was making decisions, correct decisions, and now he's completely forgotten how to do that again. And it's just, no, I'm going to hold on the ball a little bit more. I'm not going to pass it first time. I'm going to take a touch. I'm going to take a touch. I'm going to take it. Oh, for crying out loud, man. Our wing-backs just vanished in the game. They started off fantastically. We got that goal, and then we didn't push on to go get a second. We thought, we're hold. Is it because Italy was a good team, or was it because we were set up again with 7 defensive players and just could not get out? Southgate, before the match, said the reason we were going with wing-backs was to try and keep our attacking offensive players high up the pitch. They weren't ever high up the pitch. Seriously, it was bad, and this was the final, You don't get to finals often. And England have been gifted a draw in both the World Cup and the Euros that you can only dream of. All the big teams faltering. And we've got a dream draw with teams we should beat, even with negative tactics, purely based on our talent. We get all the way to the semis in the World Cup and the final here, and we mess it up with bad decision making and negative tactics. Now in the World Cup it wasn't so much negative tactics, it was decision making, not bringing on fresh players. Like when they're clearly knackered and you're not bringing on players you selected for the squad, you're not bringing them on. We also had a few injuries in the World Cup which I thought others should have been playing, but this final we had a fantastic squad. We did not utilise them properly, and it really did cost us in the end. We don't get to finals often, a lot of teams don't, and when you do, the worst possible thing is to feel like you didn't do enough. You didn't try hard enough to win that game. And England, no matter what they say in the media, did not have the mental ability to really go and win that game. They sat back. They didn't attack. And with the talent we've got, I find that to be appalling management. If we didn't have that attacking talent and we were the big underdogs here, never mind the Wembley home advantage, if we were the big underdogs, we didn't have the attacking talent, I can understand this kind of tactic. But with the players we've got, we should be attacking them. We should be going at them. And we didn't. And I just feel so let down by that. I mean, I don't think I'm being too harsh. The players can hold their heads high. I mean, they didn't choose the tactics. They didn't say, right, let's go out with 7 defensive players. They did everything in their power to try and win that game. And there just wasn't enough options to do so. If we were going to score again, it was going to be from a set piece. We started to look good at set pieces, but Italy aren't bad at set pieces either. And it showed, it was a tie. So I feel just horrible that we didn't go for it in the 90, and in the extra time we didn't go for it again. I mean, with them tiring, us tiring, and we wait till the last minute to bring on Sancho and Rashford purely for them to take penalties. What a stupid decision. Again, you need those players to come on for the last 15 minutes, at least, which I still even think then it's too late. But for those last 15 minutes, they need to come on, they need to get a feel for the game, they need to get some touches of the ball, they need to feel the crowd behind them. And that would have taken off some of the pressure that was placed on their shoulders. They had so much pressure going up to take those penalties. They've been brought on for that specific reason. Sancho's played, one game? Rashford barely anything. Nothing in the tournament. They haven't been involved. And then you're asking them to step up and take those pressure penalties? What kind of management is this? And then, to top it all off, you choose a 19-year-old who's never taken a professional penalty to take the 5th penalty? What planet are you on? I mean, Sterling, Grealish, they should have been up for that penalty. It's not up to the 19-year-old to make the decision. If he wants to take a penalty, great. He can take the 3rd penalty, or the 4th penalty, or the 6th penalty, but not the 5th penalty, the one that's usually quite decisive. And you're going to put a 19-year-old in that spot who's never taken a penalty before in a situation like this. I found it to be complete madness. I was so angry that he was walking up to take it. I mean, yeah, bravery for him, everything. The fact he stepped up and said, I'll take a penalty, that's fantastic. But not that penalty. It's your job as the manager to say, no, not that penalty. You're supposed to protect these players in case something goes wrong, and my God, did it go wrong. The 2 players you brought on specifically for penalties, both fluffed their penalties, and then Saka had his saved as well. I mean, you do your research, right? The goalkeeper for Italy is a monster. He's won, 5 shootouts? What are you doing? I mean, Grealish said, I saw his tweet, he said he asked to to take a penalty. He wanted to take the penalty. He's not 19. I don't care if he hasn't been in the England setup for a long time. He's not a kid. You give him the penalty. But Southgate seems to have something against him because he hasn't given him any minutes in the tournament. Nothing properly. I cannot work it out. The decision making throughout this tournament is what has cost us this final. And now we've got all the nonsense coming out. It's really disappointing. I have no idea what's going to happen for the World Cup. If we keep playing like this, we're going to be out before the final. We're not going to get a draw like we got again. And we are going to end up facing one of these big teams who are just going to, waltz through us. And it'll be disappointing again. And I'll have to listen to that bloody It's Coming Home song again. I want England to win more than anyone, and I just cannot see us doing it if we keep this approach up. I don't know why he has changed from what we did in the World Cup. In the World Cup, we looked good. We had a threat, and we've got away from it. Why have we gone to this negative, not doing anything strategy? It's just... Why? I cannot figure it out. I mean, some of the against Germany, we went with wing backs to nullify their wing backs, and we did that, and we won the game. Now Germany had chances still in that game. We had 7 defensive players on, and they still had chances. If they were clinical, we would have been out then. They weren't. We got a couple of chances. We actually gave Harry Kane a piece of service. And we won and we got through. This game we went with wing-backs to apparently keep our attacking players up the pitch. And we didn't do it. And then when we recognised that we didn't do it, we didn't make any changes. That's his job. Make the difficult decisions. Make the changes that are going to allow your team to win in 90 minutes. I mean, I don't know how many more times I can say I just don't understand. I just don't understand. It made absolutely no sense. You've got Harry Kane. He scored how many goals? 33. Had 17 assists. How he didn't win Premier League Player of the Year is beyond me. Who wins Playmaker and the Golden Boot in a single season and doesn't win Player of the Year? And then we go into this tournament and we don't put the players around Harry Kane that can make him perform at his optimal best. That in itself is just madness to me. I mean, he should have been surrounded by a good 4 other attacking players that he could work off of, so he didn't have to come all the way to the halfway line to create anything himself. It's just so bad. So bad. I'm just so disappointed. So, anyway, stop moaning. Were there positives? Yes. Yes, there were positives in this tournament. Pickford, other than his couple of games where he was, on something, made that one mistake, couldn't get it out of his head, he was brilliant in the final. He was brilliant throughout the tournament. He made some fantastic crucial saves. The penalty shootout, he can't have done more. He was fantastic. England's number 1, absolutely. You cannot fault him. He was brilliant. Jordan Pickford, fantastic. Harry Maguire, yeah. I'm sold on Harry Maguire. He is a brilliant centre-back. John Stones as well, didn't put a foot wrong. He was brilliant as well. The partnership between those two was fantastic. When Maguire came back, I was definitely not one for Maguire being in the squad because I was under the impression his injury, he was not going to be able to pick up match fitness and get back into the flow of it, especially after the group stages where we would have had, a rhythm going with the defenders made, and then he would step in and it would just mess everything up. That didn't happen. Harry Maguire stepped in and he stepped up. He was brilliant. Barely anything beat him. He stepped out with the ball and tried to make things happen. He was a rock. And honestly, England, even his penalty was just, when he stepped up for that penalty, my first thought was, why Harry Maguire? And then he just belts it in, breaks the camera. I mean, yeah, that is a big positive. Him, John Stones, that was fantastic. Pickford, brilliant. I thought the Kyle Walker was the best insurance policy there is in football. He didn't do enough for me going forward. But going the other way, every time we did have a little bit of a mess up, it was Kyle Walker. He was there. Calm, cool, collected. Not something I can say about him when he was playing for Spurs. He was a bit erratic at times. That has gone from his game. In this tournament, none of that. Ball goes over his head, he nods it back to Pickford. Calm as anyone. If a ball goes in behind, he's the man that charges out of nowhere to come and collect it. And he does collect it. He doesn't get beaten for pace. Walker, brilliant. Luke Shaw, fantastic going forward. He didn't put really a foot wrong defending either. But he was good going forward. The overlapping runs were fantastic. And in my opinion, the attackers didn't do themselves any good by not just constantly supplying him the ball to cross it. He was brilliant. Fantastic. And that's the back four and the goalkeeper. They were great. We only conceded 2 goals. They were great. Other positives. Okay, I didn't watch Leeds too much last season. I knew Phillips was a good player. He was fantastic, doing the defensive role. Now, I'm dead against 2 defensive midfielders. Always have been. I always feel it just upsets the creativity. And in this tournament, it showed. The amount of passes back and forth and sideways, safe. But that's not what defensive midfielders should be doing. They shouldn't be attacking. They're supposed to be marshalling the back four, which Phillips did fantastically. Rice, his partner in crime, did exactly the same thing. They were good. They just didn't do enough in the attack. And that's because they're not attack-minded players. You can't fault them for what they did. Off the ball, they were brilliant. Barely anything got through. There were chances in some games, and it was kind of, but the majority of the time, they were in control off the ball. And the problem started on the ball. So, for me, either one of them can step into the defensive midfielder role. And then it's got to be an attacking-minded player as the other, if you're going to play just 2. But as a defensive-minded player, Phillips and Rice were great. They are positives. And they're young. They can continue building and developing within this team. I'd rather they just weren't a pair. One or the other. Henderson, in the final at least, didn't do much when he came on. I thought it was a bit of a silly decision to bring him on anyway. I thought Rice was having his best game of the tournament. Don't know why he was subbed off. It's another one of those decisions. But Henderson was looking a bit off it in the final. But the other games he came on, I thought he was good. He was actually moving the ball forward, playing more like a central midfielder rather than a defensive midfielder. So there was a positive there. As for the attacking players, there wasn't much to be positive about. There just wasn't. There should have been. We had enough of them, but they're all on the bench. And if they're on the bench, they can't do anything in the game. That was all the talk before the start of the tournament. England's attacking talent, young attacking talent, pressing monsters. We never saw it. We never saw it. The entire tournament, we never saw it. And that, to me, is the biggest disappointment of this whole thing. Not once did we go out there to go and win 3-4-0. To go and show a statement. Fear us. No. And the biggest thing about the entire tournament, all this moaning, Christian Eriksen. He's alive. And there we have it. Italy, deserving champions. They were the best team in the tournament, start to finish. Their superstars were two defenders, 36 and 37. That's amazing. They have 34 games unbeaten. Mancini has done a magnificent job, and they deserve to win that game. And we didn't do anywhere near enough to win it. Hopefully we will learn this time, and the World Cup will... I'm not going to say it. Hopeful for a bright future. In the meantime, we've got Team GB, and we got the Euros for the Lionesses. They're on home soil as well, so with any luck, England can get back on top. We can only wait and see. For now though, let's drown in our sorrows.